It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at AmericasVoiceNow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
We return. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Thanks for staying with us this morning. Thanks those of you who are streaming with us live, those of you who are listening on our listen line, and those of you who are catching us up on YouTube and or on our other various methods of listening to our program, including our Roku channel. By the way, just a quick update. If you want to catch us on our dial-in listen line, you can listen to the show 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day. You can dial into area code 702-432-5339 or 213-992-4323. So what we were talking about is how can you be discerning and aware of what's going on? Because the Ministry of Propaganda is in full swing, folks. They are doing everything and anything to bend the minds. And make no mistake about it, this isn't the mind control of the old 007 movies where they, put some kind of a shell on your head connected to a bunch of wires and nonsense. This is a lot more organic. Basically, you ever hear the phrase, if you're told a lie enough times, you begin to believe it? Well, guess what? That's what's happening to you every single day. You're told lies every day. And after a while, you begin to believe it. And so our goal is to find out where those lies are being told and to break that chain so that you have an opportunity to understand when and how and where you're being lied to. Now, we keep hearing... Here's a perfect example of this. We keep hearing how the economy is getting better. The president keeps telling us that everyone agrees the economy's better. Everyone agrees. Everyone's doing better. Everyone agrees. Business is doing better. And he constantly uses that refrain of, all the experts agree. The American people say, the majority of American people say, 90% of Americans want gun control. You know what? That's such a pile of garbage. 90% of Americans don't want anything. There's not 90% of Americans that agree on anything. You couldn't even get 90% of Americans to agree if they like or don't like breakfast. How are you going to get them to agree on whether or not gun control is a good idea controlled by the likes of Obama? Please. If you don't recognize that for the lie it is, I can't help you. You're beyond salvage. The truth is, we do know this. This administration sits here and lies right to your face. The representative from D.C. the other day was on a press conference, and she was sitting there and two different times in about a 3-minute speech, she said, Washington, D.C., everyone knows that D.C. is the safest city in the nation. I was blown away. Everyone knows that D.C. is the safest city in the nation? You've got to be kidding me. Don't you understand when you're being played? Anytime you hear the majority of America agrees, first of all, right off the bat, there's a red flag thrown right in front of you. Because the vast majority of America can't agree on anything. So anytime you're told, especially with the lie about 90% of Americans agree on gun control, that came right out of the liar-in-chief's mouth. 90% of Americans can't agree on whether or not to even have breakfast, much less what to have for breakfast. So there's absolutely no way on God's green earth that 90% of Americans agree that common sense gun control should be instituted. Come on. If you believe that, I got some oceanfront property right in the middle of downtown St. Louis to sell you. The simple truth is this. We're being lied to, and the Ministry of Propaganda is pounding misinformation, disinformation, and distractions into your mind every single day. What is true is, and what you'll never see on the mainstream media, is this information. Real median income is down $2,627 per household. People in poverty are up by 6.6 million, and we now have a record 46.5 million people who are now considered poor. Do you realize what a staggering number that is? 47 million people are considered poor out of a nation of 310 million. Do the math. The numbers are staggering. And household median income, this came out yesterday. The average American, makes less today than they did in 1989. Can you imagine that? In 1989, the average American family made $600 more then than they do now. And don't tell me inflation hasn't gone up. What were you buying a loaf of bread for back in 1989? What was a pound of chopped meat in 1989? What was a gallon of gasoline back in 1989? What was your electric bill back in 1989? What was your natural gas utility bill? What were your household taxes back in 1989? Go look them up. Tell me that the economy is better when the average family today makes $600 less than they did back in 1989, and yet prices are through the roof on everything. If you're not one of those people who shops because you allow your husband or your wife to do it, I'm asking you to go into the grocery store and take a look. See what a pound of ground beef costs you. Look at how much chicken is. Chicken, the stalwart protein for the masses, the poor. Chicken ain't for the poor anymore, folks. You want protein now and you're poor, you got to eat beans in order to get it. For the same prices you were getting for chicken back in 1989. What did a gallon of gas cost in 1989? I don't even know. I don't remember. But I can tell you this. If you take a second and you go look it up on your website, you'll be able to find it. Just type it into any search engine. Price of gasoline, 1989. And then tell me, what was the price of the car you're filling in 1989? That same car today, you can't buy for what it cost you back in 1989. And yet your income is $600, if you're an average American, less today than it was in 1989. And you're telling me that this is an economic rebound, a boom? It's only a boom for those playing the market. And I'll tell you why it's a boom for those playing the market. What this administration does and has done is bailed out all of its corporate cronies with the QE, quantitative easing initiative, QE infinity at this point. What they've done is they have brought down interest rates so that companies could go out and refinance their debt. And that means that those companies that were floating bonds out there, a perfect example. Verizon the other day floated a $49 billion bond issue to buy out the other half of Vodafone, which is their British partner. $49 billion in corporate bonds. Now, what that cost them, the interest rate that they paid on those bonds, was far lower than it would have been a year or 2 or 3 ago. And the reason for that is because when the Federal Reserve System buys back our own nation's debt, and that's what they're doing, you can call quantitative easing anything you want, but it is purely defined as monetizing our own debt. We are the equivalent of buying back our Visa card debt with our MasterCard. That's all it is, people. And the reason why we're doing that, we're buying $1 trillion a year The Federal Reserve is buying $1 trillion a year of American debt. And the reason that we're buying $1 trillion a year of American debt is because we cannot allow the nation to continue to sink underneath this weight. And the foreign governments that used to buy our debt are just not interested anymore. We run $1 trillion deficit. So if the Fed's buying $1 trillion and we're running $1 trillion deficit, who's buying all of our debt? It's not China. It's not Japan. It's not England. It's not France. It's not Russia. It's our own Federal Reserve. And quantitative easing has pushed interest rates down. Now, that benefits companies because they get to recast and refinance all of their debt. Be like you with a household mortgage. You were at 8%. Suddenly interest rates are down around 3%, and you say, hey, why shouldn't I refinance? I can get my payments down from $1,200 a month down to $900 a month. What kind of an idiot am I if I don't do that? Well, corporations do the same exact thing. Now, what does that mean to them? That means that their bottom line goes up because it's cost less for them to run their business. And at the same point in time, it also does one other thing. It beats the snot out of the average American saver. You retirees, what kind of money in return are you seeing on your investments in the bank? Open up a CD and ask them what they're going to give you for an interest rate. It's like 1% if you're lucky. So while you're helping corporations, and who are the corporations? Those are the people that are donating all the money to whom? You betcha. Congress and this administration. They're not living and getting reelected on your money. They're getting reelected on lobbying money. And where does that money come from? The people who stand to gain the most from their vote. You are making $600 less now than you made in 1989. Maybe less. That's the average. And yet, all of your costs have gone through the roof. Your taxes have gone up. I'm talking about real-term property taxes now. These are the taxes that enable you to keep the home you already own. Yeah, I know. That's a whole different topic. The simple truth is this. You are losing ground every single day. And yet this administration and the Ministry of Propaganda is out there trying to feed you this nonsensical lie that you're doing better. Are we really doing better? In 2008, the year Obama was elected, average household income was $53,644. You know what it is now? $51,000. A drop of $2,600. In 4 years, folks. A drop of $2,600 in 4 years. Now you know why you are making less money now than you did in 1989. And everything's gone up. The cost of your clothes is higher. The cost of the gasoline you buy to get to work, that's higher. Your taxes have gone up. Your taxes in terms of your federal income taxes, your income tax rate has gone up because all of the tax breaks that you had from the Bush era are all gone. Obama wiped them off the table. You're paying higher income tax, and you're paying higher property tax. You're paying higher state taxes on the gasoline you buy. You know how much money, how much of the price of gasoline is the tax? Every state's different, but go look up yours because you'll be blown away at how much money there is in taxes. And not to mention the fact that taxes are hitting us in every different area. They're hitting us with new taxes all the time. And guess what? Obamacare hasn't even begun yet. The cost of your insurance premiums for the existing health care you've got have gone up dramatically. The cost of the rent that you pay has gone up dramatically. I was talking to a lady the other day. She's a longtime listener, an old friend. She moved into one of these retirement communities. It's a retirement development. When she moved in there, when she first moved into that development, she was paying $600 a month in rent. 4 years later, she's paying $900. Same place, no difference. Her utilities in that same period of time have gone up by 60%. The cost of the electricity, the cost of the natural gas to the property, 60% increase. And yet, you're making the same amount of money now, actually $600 less than you made in 1989. Now, if you call that an economic recovery, I tell you, you got to go back to do your basic mathematical tables and your basic multiplication tables, because there is just no way that this is an improvement over what we had before Obama took office in 2008. Now, for those of you who are Obama supporters, okay, I get it. I'm not going to blame this all on Obama. This is a systemic problem. Washington is slowly but surely sponging the resources and the revenue out of our nation. And they've been doing it for decades. They've been doing it for 100 years, since the creation of the income tax and the creation of the Federal Reserve System. 1913 and 1916. IRS in 16, Federal Reserve in 1913. It's like sitting there and taking a bowl of water and dropping a sponge right in the middle of it. And all the water gets sucked up into the sponge, and then you lift the sponge out, and how much is left in the bowl? That's the game, folks. The goal is to drain you of resources for one purpose and one purpose alone. Without resources, you cannot fight back. That's the truth. You can't fight back because, one, you don't have the money and the resources to be able to go out and support the candidates that you think are actually going to help you. Two, you're so busy just trying to make ends meet right now, you don't even have the time to go help a candidate who you think will help support your positions. Three, you're demoralized. See, these things conspire. Why do you think depression in the United States of America is at an all-time high? Why do you think that 40%, hear these words, 40% of American women between the ages of 30 and 50 are on antidepressants? Because they're looking around them and they have no flippin' hope. They have no hope because they're the ones who are going to the grocery store. And they remember back in 1989, life was better then. That's why. They have no hope. They are looking around them, and they are completely demoralized. They are in an utter quandary. They don't know what to do. They see their world, their own personal life, and their nation collapsing around their ears, and they don't know what to do. They are constantly bombarded with lies and misdirection from a media, and quite frankly, it's not just misdirection. A lot of it is simply to keep you occupied in another area. In other words, all of the distractions that are given to you every single day. That's all manipulation, folks. Why do you think they call it TV programming? If you want to get out from underneath, if you want to get away from what's wrong in your life, first of all, you got to have an honest discussion with yourself. What is my priority? What's critical to me? Not only critical to me and my happiness, but critical at this point, folks, just to your basic survival. And you've got to start eliminating those things which are killing you. One, whatever you're watching on TV, shut it off. Stop being entertained. Because when you're entertained, you're not capable of marshaling the resources and the reserves and the strength necessary to be a warrior for the restoration of a constitutional republic. It's that simple. You're demoralized financially. You're demoralized emotionally. You're demoralized politically. The seeds of confusion have been sown in your mind. You don't know where to turn, who to turn to. You feel like a tennis ball back and forth between Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. Let me tell you something. That's by design. The goal of a duopoly party system is to give you the illusion that you have a choice. And that's all it is, an illusion. You have no choice. Either party you vote for, they hold the sponge. And that sponge is not just drawing your financial resources. It's drawing your emotional resources. It's drawing your physical resources. Ask anyone who is depressed. You suddenly have physical pain that goes along with that depression. Mental depression creates and leads to physical depression. And there's no way around it. You can't help it. Why are you mentally depressed? Answer the question for yourself. You see the world coming down around you. At this point, you're like sitting there just waiting for it to all end. I get it. So what are you going to do about it? You going to sit there and just pop another Valium? Pop another Prozac? Watch another Kim Kardashian television show? Watch another sitcom, another reality television broadcast? Going to let them keep programming your mind? Watch a few more commercials? You going to allow the propaganda from the media to permeate your mind? You know, your mind is a computer. It's a calculator. It's nothing more. So if you put 2 plus 2 into the calculator, you expect to get 4. Right? But if you're trying to get to 4 and you put in 1 plus 5, are you ever going to get 4? No. You're never going to find the correct answer because you started out with the wrong numbers. And in this case, everything that goes into your mind are the wrong numbers. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Please share with your friends. Educate, inform, motivate, activate. Not just yourself, but those around you. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, this is our time. This is our last-ditch effort. If we don't save this now, all hope is lost. Even the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says we've only got until 2017 before this is irretrievable. That's the government itself. We'll be back in just a minute. Stick with us.